G'day guys, welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, August the 29th, 2022. Great to have you along as always. And as always, plenty going on in the world of boxing. So I'd like to welcome all my usual viewers. Great to have you along. And obviously all the new viewers out there as well. So we're sort of slowly making our way back. We lost Facebook. I'm not sure whether you heard last week, but I got banned permanently from Facebook. So we've lost a few viewers in that way, but I'm trying to get them all back. So if you are from the Facebook, make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that sort of stuff that we do. But as I said, I'm trying to get everyone across, but I think we lost sort of 200 or 300 views for the week. So it's a little bit of a shame. We worked pretty hard to get our viewership up, and it's always pretty tough at the normal time. But as I said, we'll work there and get there. But in the meantime, great to have you guys along. Really appreciate it. As I said, if you haven't been here before, this is your show. Yes, I've got my list of things to go through, and as I said, plenty going on at the moment, but this is your show, so I really need your input. I'd like you to comment, put a question in there, an opinion. You will see just put it in the comment section there, it will come up. And as it says there, let's talk some boxing. So as I said, always plenty going on, and in the last couple of weeks, especially on the Aussie scene, I will say at the moment. And always plenty going on in the world scene. So I'll go through tonight's agenda before we get going. So I'm going to go through the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame. I was very privileged to be there on Friday night. Shout out to Damien Membry, and I think it's Brent McCormack, who put the event on. They do a fantastic job. I'm going to run through that and just some different things that happened on the night. I'll share some stories and that as well. I've also got the pound for pound world pound for pound has been released from ESPN and the Ring magazine. So I'm going to break that down. I really want your opinion on this. I've got my own opinions, but as I said, I really want your guys' opinions on it and questions, queries, issues, whatever it might be. We've also got the Super Saturday has been announced today. Now, I did hear this this is going to happen in the wings, and I must admit I wasn't quite sure how it would work, but the press conference was today. As always, they do it really, really well, the No Limit boys, so we're going to go right through that and the card and everything else with it. Comment on the fights. I've got the fight card here, or most of it as well. No doubt that'll change a lot probably in the lead up to it, what is a couple of months away, so no doubt that it will change significantly in that time, but we'll go through what it is at the moment, and let's get into it. What do we got there? Andy, thanks mate. Hello fans, Lyndon and chat. Always great to have you along, mate. You're always the first one to come on and comment. So I really appreciate you logging in each week. I know at the moment there's boxing shows, there's football shows, it's all going on at the moment. So you guys that actually do log on, I really appreciate it. And let's get into it. So I'll just get rid of that one there. Now, the other things on the agenda tonight, I want to talk about the Cambosis and Haney2 card. That was announced last week. I'll go into that in detail. We did go through it a little bit on the Deep Dive show last week. It was great to have Nick Noonan on board. He's in the inner sanctum with George. I actually flew down with George on the day, so it was really great to have his input. And he also gave some input as well into Liam Paro and Brock Jarvis, who were fighting in October as well. So that was great. And yes, mate, hit the like, please. Yes, it all adds up. And as I said, we really want to get those subscribers that used to watch us religiously on Facebook. They've vanished because, as I said, I got banned. Let's get them back and get even more viewers. So, as I said, those people that log in each week, really appreciate it because there are so many options out there at the moment. On the world scene, I want to talk about Fury and, lots going on with Tyson Fury about his, is he champion? He's not champion. Obviously, the Usyk and Joshua fight. We did touch on that last week. But there's been a lot of things happening this week with a potential fight between Usyk and Joshua. So we want to talk about that and just some other opinions out there. And look, anything else that's going on in the world of boxing at the moment, as I said at the start, heaps going on in Australia and in the world. So let's get into it. So what I want to start with is the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame. Now, I don't really know where to start with this one. This is a little bit of a slide I made for the YouTube video the other day. So what I'm actually going to do while we do that, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to put the link in the comment section there so you guys can watch it. Where is it there? So this is my night at the Hall of Fame. Really, really good because, look, it was I think it should be bigger, and this is what I'm going to talk about in a second, because I really think there's the ability and potential for this to be massive. And the reason I say that, I'm just going to, I'll get rid of the volume there. All right, so I'm going to put it in the comments, guys. So check it out. I hope that's come up there. Yep. All right, so it's in the comment section there, guys. So log on. Click on that, and you'll see the video. So what it was on Friday night, August the 26th. As I said, it was organised by Damien Membry and Brent McCormack. It was a really, really great night. It was held at the Crown Palladium, which is across the road from the actual casino itself. It was hosted by Bruce Eva. And look, it really was just a really good night. It's probably about 250 people there. First people I ran into when I got there was Mick Francis, the promoter from Queensland. Obviously promotes Jai Pataya, who was there as well with his belts. Great to run into them as soon as I got there. Barry Michael, of course, Jeff Fennick. The man of the hour, Hussein, his brother Skinny Hussein, Sharon Anyos, and just so many boxing fans and actual boxers from yesterday around as well. And look, it got off to a really good start. They did I think they did the older ones first, I think it was. So it was like a retrospective type of thing. So they were all from the, early 1900s, and they sort of went through it to the night till we got to the main stuff. It was great to see. They had speeches from Jeff Fennick up there. I think they got Barry Mike up there. So I've got to say with Jeff, it was great to see him there, and I didn't get a chance to say good day. And he's always, if you know me, you know that Jeff's my favourite fighter of all time. Such a legend of a fighter and a guy. Has always treated me very, very well, and I like to treat people the way they treat me. And he's always been very respectful to me. And whenever I've asked him for a favour to come on the show or have an interview or whatever it might be, he's always said yes without any hesitation whatsoever. So a great man is Jeff. And as I said, I was really disappointed I didn't get a chance to talk to him on the night because such a legend of a fight, and officially a legend. I think he's one of 5 official Aussie Hall of Fame legends. I think it's Jimmy Carruthers, Lionel Rose, Johnny Famechon, and Les Darcy, I think, are the other 4. And he is the only living one at the moment. So as he's looking pretty good, I must say, Jeff. He's got the new hairstyle. He's got the new threads. Looks in really good shape at the moment. And look, it's really hard to get to someone like him because all night there's obviously people wanting autographs and photos, which is great. That's what they're there for. So I just did the rounds. As I said, you haven't seen the video. It's in the comment section there. And all I did was sort of go around for the night, catch up with a lot of people I knew and some that I didn't know, and just pretty much had the camera with me and said, look, do you mind having a chat? And we had some great conversations. You'll see in the video Steve Della, Luke Meldon, Mick Francis himself, just so many people. Robbie Peden, great to have a talk to Bomber Peden. It was awesome. I think I just caught him it was about to have dinner, so it probably wasn't the most comfortable interview for him. But look, Bomber's always great, and he was looking the goods on the night. We've got another comment there. The Hall of Fame video was great, mate. That was great. Yep, that's good to throw names and titles up on screen next time. Okay, yeah, good idea. I didn't actually think of that. That's a very, very good idea. I will do that. Next time I do a broadcast like that or a video, I will put the name and who they are underneath. I might even, could even go in and edit that, I reckon, and maybe reboot it or whatever you do. But yeah, that's a really good idea, mate. That's why it's really important to have your feedback and your comments put back to me, because without that, then I wouldn't know. And I think someone said maybe a little bit about the music as well. Maybe don't necessarily need as much as music. I tried to get it down as much as I could, but hey, I want you guys to watch it. So if you say cut the music or put the names up, that's what I'm going to do. James, nice to have you along, James. Good idea. I was wondering who was interviewed first in the video. I guess it was Peden. Yeah, okay. So the first one was Robbie Bomber Peden, of course, the former IBF junior lightweight world champion. I went to the '96 Olympics with Bomber. Also went to the '93 World Championships in Finland with him, and some Oceania titles, and of course Aussie titles. And mate, he's a funny cat. Is Bomber. He's one of those guys who, unless you're in tight with him, he won't give you a lot. He's very in-house, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. Now, when I first went on a trip with him, he didn't really give me a lot. You've got to earn his respect and earn his input, I suppose, because not that he thinks he's any better than anyone else. He's just his own man, his Bomber. But once you're in his little inner sanctum, he'll give you the time of day. He'll do anything for you. Regularly calls me just to say good day, how are you tracking, what's going on, and he's a busy man as well. And on the night, as I said, I sort of caught him in the middle of dinner or about to have dinner, so it wasn't the best timing on my behalf. But look, he had the chat. You'll see it there. I kept it nice and short, but I really want to get him on for probably a more in-depth interview at some stage, because this sort of guy that he doesn't. I don't think he does a lot of interviews. He's a very private sort of person, but he has so many stories of talent. What I would like all you guys to really get to know from Bomber is just that. And he'll make no secret of it, that when he fought, he barely trained. He wasn't the most dedicated guy, but I'll tell you what, as far as the most talented Aussie boxer that I've seen, especially in the amateurs, you won't find anyone more talented than Bomber. He was just a sensation. And, as I said, he wasn't the most dedicated guy. He wasn't the most, what do you call it, the strict sort of guy. Like, he just did his own thing, but he would always make weight. He would always turn up to fight. Discipline was the word I was looking for, by the way. But as I said, he always turned up, always made weight, always got the job done. And sometimes you have fighters like that who they just get by with doing that. I think if they tried to dedicate themselves too much, they would probably actually negate themselves, if that makes sense. Some of them just need to they just want to fight. Training secondary. Yeah, I'll do enough to make weight and get a bit of fitness, but they want to fight. And there's been a few like that I've been away with, and there's been others that are just absolute training beasts, like a Justin Crawford, for instance. So yeah, there's a lot of different fighters out there. Bomber got to be super proud. DD, now mate, I'm sorry, I don't understand that, so can you put that properly? Sorry, I don't know the abbreviations there. But as far as super proud, he got inducted, oh sorry, was that the deep dive amateurs? Yeah, pound for pound number 1. Yes, thanks mate, I got that there. But just one of those guys. And as I said, you had guys like Crawford who were trying the house down, and guys like Bomber and James Swan was another one who they probably always had trouble making weight, but they always got the job done. They never not made weight. So you got to take your hat off to him. But as I said, I want to get Bomber on. I've been talking about this for a long time. I want to do a Olympic reunion. So of the 96 Olympics, I've talked to of course Bomber, Hussey, Crawf. Who was the other one? Richie Rolls. So there's sort of 4 or 5 of us, or 5 of us out of the 8 that are in. Rick Tempiri is a little bit hard to get to. I don't think he's on social media, but I'm pretty sure the boys have his number, so look out for him. Lee Troush was another one, and the other one was Swanee, who knows where Swanee is these days. He's not on social media. I don't think he's even got a phone, Swanee. I haven't talked to him for a long, long time, but I hope he's doing really well, and shout out to Swanee. But on to the night itself. Food was great. So Damien, if you're watching, the food was awesome. Plenty of drinks, plenty of great company. Did the rounds. It was a really, look, if you haven't been there before, it's just a really, it's a night for, I won't say it's even for the fans. It's more so, I suppose if you're a football player at AFL level and you went to the Brownlow and you get to go around with all the Hall of Fame or the All Australian, it's the inner sanctum of the industry. From all different eras, and they all talk amongst themselves and just reminisce. And I had a conversation. I can't remember his name. He's a really lovely gentleman from New South Wales. He'd come down for the night. I think he's got to do with the Veterans Association in New South Wales, and just a really good guy. He was telling me he used to be a fighter back in the 70s and 80s, and of course, I spoke to Hussey and Skinny, and look, it was just a really, really good night to talk boxing with our fraternity. And if you're a boxer out there, or an ex-boxer or whatever, no matter what level you're at, try and get there next year. 250 people there. I reckon we could easily double that. And talking to Damien afterwards, I'd really like to help. And I'm not the only one. There's plenty of others out there as well. We'd like to help maybe with some fundraising, some ideas to make it better. You guys probably know that I went to the International Hall of Fame a couple of months ago, and it was a 4-day event. I know that's probably not feasible in Australia, but I would love to see even a 2-day event. Where maybe, or even a 1-day event where they maybe have some meet and greets during the day. Maybe there's a boxing show or whatever, and then have the dinner that night, and really make it a fundraising event. Because I know in Canastota in New York for the international one, they did the fist castings, and they did interviews with all the fighters separately during the day. It was just a really, really good feel. So maybe they could look to do that. As I said, I know boxing in Australia is probably not as, obviously it's not as big as over there, and I understand that getting people together for the whole weekend might be hard, but maybe if it was just a 1-day thing, maybe if it was a Saturday, as I said, maybe they could do some on-stage interviews with all the inductees and former inductees, which would be great as well, because one thing they really didn't do on the night was, the Bomberpedans, and I think Jeff got up there, but I don't think Barry did. Didn't see Lester there. I was devastated about that. I love Lester, but I'm not sure what the circumstances was there, so he wasn't there either. But most of the other people were. But if you guys have got some suggestions, put it in the comments box. But that's what I would probably like to see. Maybe interviews during the day, maybe some fist castings, maybe some memorabilia signings or autograph sessions, whatever it might be. Have an event on during that day, and then have the dinner that night. So who knows? But another thing might be to even take it interstate. I know they have tried it in the past, so I'm not quite sure if it worked or not. The odds are it probably didn't, because obviously Damien and Brent are based in Melbourne. But being the Australian Boxing Hall of Fame, it would be good to maybe get out into maybe Sydney, Queensland. Not so sure it would be feasible in Perth or even Tassie, but definitely Brisbane, Sydney, and Melbourne would be great. Or even it went Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane. So Melbourne was every second year. I don't know. I'm just sort of throwing it out there. What I can say, it was a great night. And I had a ball. It was great actually catching up with Hussey, I will say, because I haven't seen him since the Olympics in 96. The World Championships in 97. I take that back. Was the last time I saw Hussey. Like all of us, who's a little bit older, probably carrying a couple of little extra kilos around the waist and a little bit of facial hair and all the rest of it. But look, talking to him on the night, it was awesome because, as I said, I haven't spoken to him for 25 years, and the mutual respect you get from someone that you've gone through so much with. And I used to room with Husky back in the day as well, and really got to know him well. And I have so much respect for him and his brother, because they were just such great fighters, but really great human beings as well. Very humble, but they could fight. Don't worry about that. You get hit in the body by one of those guys, you're going to know about it. So, but yeah, as I said, it was great on the night. I'd really like to, hopefully next year, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to try and get a table myself. I'm going to reach out to a lot of the amateurs and that I went to overseas events with, and maybe get them involved for next year. I'm probably talking of the Crawfords and the Olympic team that we went away with, and Tim Peary. I mean, these are all icons of Australian boxing. The Justin Rousels. We've got to try and get those guys to these events and celebrate it, because I think I did touch on it a few weeks ago as well, even with the officials. Now we go on about with the officials about, a lot of them haven't done boxing before, or at least at some sort of level, and officialdom has not really been done properly because there's no boxers coming back. I think it's the same in this case, and I was one of them. Boxers tend to walk away and we don't look back. We get involved in gyms, we might train some fighters, all that sort of stuff, but we don't come back as officials, and we don't go to enough of these fight nights and events like the Hall of Fame. And I think we just need a bit more push. And I actually spoke to Julian Holland today, and if you want a bit of a highlight of the video, go check it out. I think he's the last interview or second last interview on the night. Let's just say it had a couple of sherbets, but I loved it because he spoke the truth. He went on for about half an hour. I had to cut it down to about 5 minutes, but he was awesome because he just told it the way it is, and that's what I love to hear. And I spoke to him today, and I said, he brought it up as well about how do we get more and more of these guys back. I mean, I'm just sort of talking from my era. I'd love to see Craig Trotter and David Clancy, and these are all the guys that are around. Obviously Lester, who wasn't there, and it's great that Barry goes and all that sort of stuff. Dave Russell, and I just think back to all these guys who were around when I was fighting, and it'd be great to have them back. Jason Murphy's another one. Scott Brower. Anyway, I could go on all night, but overall, fantastic night. Can't wait till next year. I've already said to Damien, put me down for a table, so I'm going to hit a few people up about coming. And if you guys are out there as fans and you want to meet the absolute royalty of Australian boxing, get in. I think it was $200 or $300 to go, but look, it all goes to a good cause. You get a great feed and drinks and everything else. Everyone kicked on at the casino afterwards. I didn't, I must say. I caught up with Steve Della and Luke Meldon, which was awesome. Great friends from Queensland and just icons and of Queensland boxing and Australian boxing. And Steve Della's been there and done that. Luke's the heir apparent who will take over at some stage. But we went over to the casino afterwards, and while a lot of the other guys went to bars and stuff, we actually sat in the food court for a couple of hours and had a coffee. Luke smashed down about 3 pizzas, but anyway, Steve and I just had a coffee, or he had a tea, and it was really good just to sit down. Yeah, it was loud and there was people everywhere and that sort of stuff, but we had our own little bubble going, and it was just great to sit down and just talk. And yes, most of it was about boxing, but just in life in general. And it's really good sometimes. I think we miss the point in life sometimes about what makes us happy and what's important. I think catching up with people that you're close to is good, and that's what these events are for. So I think I've rambled enough about it, but you get the gist. It was a great night, and looking forward to it for next year. All right, now today was announced the Super Saturday event. You can see there Nikita Zoo, Dennis Hogan, Paul Acusio, you can see Sam Goodman there. Now I'm going to go through the actual card. Now I'm not going to put up the videos. I'll save that for Thursday night. We're going to go through it in depth there as well. But what do you guys think about Super Saturday? 20 fights in 10 hours. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to share my screen for a sec. It'll come up. There it is there. So you can see there a lot of fights, well, nearly all of them bar one, have already been penciled in. Now the odds are these will change a lot in the next 6, 7, 8 weeks, whatever it's going to be. You can see there up the top. We'll start up there and work our way backwards. Dennis Hogan, Sam Eggington, that's for the IBO Super Middleweight title. You can see there Dennis Hogan, 30 wins, 4 losses and a draw. Sam Eggington, 32 and 7. Good fighter, obviously 7 losses. Not unbeatable, obviously, and that's a really good opportunity for Dennis Hogan. He's had those really bad results in the past. Of course, we know the Jaime Munguia fight where he was robbed in Mexico. Of course, Charlo as well, and of course what Tim Tszyu did to him as well. But really good chance for Dennis Hogan. Look, I think I've been pretty vocal to say that I don't really rate the IBO as a legitimate world title. However, what it will do, like the regional belts do, it will set him up for bigger opportunities down the track. And Sam Eggington's very, very well-credentialed fighter. So if he gets that win, then who knows? He might be on to world title number 4. See underneath there, Paulo Acusio, really high on this kid. Well, man, 2-0, but fights like he's about 20-0, this guy. He can fight. Up against Faris Chevalier. Now, this, I will say, is a very, very, very risky fight for Acusio. Now, I don't think they would have put him in with Chevalier. They didn't think they could get the job done. But Faris Chevalier, he lost his last fight to Conor Wallace. Before that, was ranked in the top 15 of all 4 organisations. So just take that into account where Acuso's 2-0 going up against Faris Chevalier, the Fox, who's very slick, very good on his feet, very good defence, good with the hands. My only criticism of him is his work rate's probably not high enough and probably doesn't have enough power in his punches, but that's, lots of fighters have got by without a lot of power. But that's probably my only criticism. He tends to be outworked a little bit, and that's what Conor Wallace did. You can see the game plan was for Conor Wallace to keep the work rate very, very high to put Chevalier off his game. Whereas you saw when he fought Blake Caparello, Blake allowed Faris to pretty much fight at his own pace, and that's why he was outboxed. Conor Wallace didn't allow him to do that, which is why he really put the heat on him and got the win. So, will Acuso win? Yes, I think he will. But I'll tell you what, not an easy fight. And over 10 rounds too. So it'll be interesting to see how Acuso goes in his third fight over 10 rounds with a very, very well-credentialed and experienced fighter in Faris Chevalier. He's had 15 fights and fought on the world stage and fought over the journey many, many times. So that will be a ripper. Dara Foley up against Blake Minto. So Dara Foley, 20 wins, 4 losses and a draw against Blake Minto. It's 14-3. And 2, don't know a hell of a lot about Blake Minto. I think I saw him fight a while back on one of the cards, but I'm not too familiar with him. All I know is that Dara Foley, he comes to fight every single time, and I think that'll be a ripper as well. You would think that Dara Foley will get the fight. He had a few choice words to say about Stevie Spark, who's obviously got another fight overseas next month or the month after, I think it is. So that'll be a good one as well. So, Yeah, who knows whether that fight gets made down the track, or maybe Darragh Foley could even fight maybe the loser of Jarvis and Paro. A few options there for him if that fight doesn't happen. This guy, Sam Goodman, 12-0, ripper kid, fighting Jason Cooper, 17-3-1. I've seen Cooper fight. He's tough, but I think Sam Goodman at 12-0 will get the job done there. That's another one over 10 rounds. I'll tell you what, it's going to be a long day, 10 hours, up at Newcastle. So, where is it? So, yeah, so Sam Goodman, as I said, 12-0, Jason Cooper, 17-3-1. I would think that they're trying not to probably spend too much money with imports for this one. They want to keep the cost down because obviously this is not going to be a cheap event having so many fights. But I think Jason Cooper will take it up to Goodman, but I think he'll get the job done. David Light, very, very good fighter from New Zealand, 18-0 against Vikas Singh, 11-3-1. I don't really know much about that, although I'm assuming that is a keep busy fight for David Light, but it's still great to see him on a big card like this. Down to Jade Mitchell. He's up against Mark Lucas. Now, this is an interesting one. Jade hasn't fought since he fought on my show 2.5 years ago. It was late February 2020, just before COVID hit. I think the COVID lockdowns might have come a couple of weeks after this. So our event might have been one of the last ones that were, I think there might have been one the week after maybe. I can't remember. But either way, Jade, if you don't remember, lost to Istvan Zili on the night. Lost a split decision. I thought he did enough. The judges obviously didn't. And it was a really kick in the guts for him because he'd only fought a couple of months before that and had his career best win over the Russian. Who was his... where is it there? Let's have a look. You'd think I'd know his name considering I promoted him. Let's have a look. He fought Stanislav Kashtanov. That's right. Who was a tough Russian, former world champion. So Jade boxed brilliantly that night, got a 10-round decision. So it's good to see him back after 2.5 years. A lot of injuries, still a few weight issues, I think, with Jade. It is at super middleweight, which is a little bit surprising, I will say. I would have thought maybe he would have come back at light heavyweight because I know he struggled to make weight a couple of years ago, although 2.5 years ago. So he's obviously older. Hasn't been in there, so I'm surprised that that's at super middle, but knowing Jade, he wouldn't have taken the fight if he didn't think he could win. And look, it's a tough one first up. Mark Lucas is a very, very good fighter. Very, very good fighter. I think he's a former Commonwealth Games rep. I'm not sure he went to Olympics. I don't think he did, but he went to the Commonwealth Games. He can fight. He's had 3 losses, Isaac Hardman, Sam Solomon, and I can't remember who the other one was. We can have a look, though. Who was it? He lost to Rocky Jerkic, which was a very, very close fight as well. So you can see his record there. Lost his last fight to Isaac Hardman. That was about 18 months ago. But he's better than that, and I think that will be a really good test for Jade. And as I said, my biggest interest in that fight will be how Jade makes the weight. Let's hope he's learnt from his last couple of attempts and he does it comfortably. I'm sure he will. And good to see Jade back. Some good fights for him out on the horizon. Also on the card, of course, how could we forget this bloke? Nikita Tszyu, 3-0 against Darkin Dryden, 4-0, 4 KOs. Now, there's going to be some fireworks in this one. I've got a feeling, I think I said it after his last fight, that I think the fights are going to be probably a little bit easier to get for Nikita Tszyu now after the Ben Horn fight. Ben Horn obviously showed that he's not invincible, he's not Superman, which is what everyone in the know, we knew. All the boxing people out there knew that, he'd had a couple, I won't say they were easy, but they were very, very winnable fights for him. To think that he's going to go through and just demolish everyone is ridiculous. And, that wasn't the case. Ben Horn, again, full respect to him. Darkin Dryden will come to fight, but I just think he's probably a little bit limited in ability-wise. He can obviously bang and comes and has a crack, but I think Nikita will learn from that last fight and he'll get the job done. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes the distance again, I will say. But, I think that Nikita will learn from that and, as I said, probably get a decision or maybe even a sort of later round stoppage. Only a 6-rounder. So, look, what I like too, they're not rushing Nikita. They're just guiding him along and doing the right thing by him, getting these fights under his belt. And none of them have been easy. They're all, about for where he's at. So I think that'll be a really good one. I won't go through the rest of the card there, but you can see there's another 6 or 7 fights there at this stage. And they've counted 16 fights, so they'll probably add some. Some will fall over, some will be added. Whether they actually get the 20 fights remains to be seen, I suppose. But look, great concept from No Limit. Now, what do you got to say about No Limit is, again, they're just bringing it to Australian boxing. Now, what I like about them is that they're taking a lot of stuff out of the books of other promoters or other overseas promoters and more importantly, other sports. I'm pretty sure this Super Saturday thing is a rugby thing, or maybe it's Super Round or Super Week or whatever the hell it might be. But they do things like this, and I really like the fact that they are just trying different things. They're trying, to get new fans, and you've obviously got the Paul Gallen event with the two fighters on the same night, and now this. I think it's great. There was, I think Ben Damon did ask George Rose today about maybe the Shannon O'Connell Ebony Bridges fight maybe being on this card instead of mid-September. I think it's a great idea. I think, though, the money might not be there to put it on. This is going to be an expensive card, and I'm not sure whether is it on. Oh yeah, it's pay-per-view, so maybe there will be. But it's an interesting one. The whole Bridges and O'Connell thing. We'll just touch on that while we're going, but. Everyone knows, of course, that it's gone to purse bids, and we should have an answer any old day now about who's won the purse bids and where it's going to be. He was asked whether it would be on this show, but he did say he wanted to do it on the Gallen card. Now, that's about a month away, or it might even be 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks away. I'm not sure you can just sort of chuck it on the card and let it go. I would like to see it sort of build a little bit, get a bit of momentum behind it, get the marketing behind it, and the media. And I think they will get behind it. Women's sports got a lot of attention lately. Obviously, it's in rugby and football and rugby, AFL, cricket, and the such. But there is the ability now to get the attention from the media as far as that goes. So it might be good timing. I would like to see it on this one, or better yet, do it as a standalone, maybe even the one after this. Give it a month or so, or 6 to 7 weeks of promotion, and then we'll get it on. So, but anyway, we'll see what happens there. So Newcastle Entertainment Centre. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to bring up for a second here. I'm going to share my screen again, and this is the website. I'm going to put the link in the comment section in a second. But Super Saturday, you can see there the Super Saturday Fight Festival, Saturday the 8th of October. You can see the tickets there, and I'm going to run down each ticket as we go. So you can see down there, bronze. I shall go down a little bit more. You can see there the purple. That is $49. So really, really good value there. And don't get me wrong, if you've been to the Newcastle Entertainment Centre or you haven't been there, there's not a bad seat in the house. It is an awesome arena for boxing. So even those seats there, $49, you cannot go wrong. That is a really, really good price for that. So $49 there. As I said, you can see there in the purple. Let's go up to the silver, and that we'll call that pink, I suppose you'll call it. $89 there. So, again, not a bad seat in the house. I'll just go up further and see. I can't sort of get up there now. It looks like that is the tickets there. So, you can see, again, there. $89 for that. So, again, great value for 20 fights for the day. And, I'm not sure what time it starts, but I'm assuming it might be about, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I would probably think. Then we go to the gold. So, you can see that there. I'm just going to, so more there. So, gold. You can see up there, so that is $119, and you can, especially up there, number 2 and number 12. You can see them there. For $119 to be so close to the ring, great value. We go to platinum, $149. I think I might have sat. Where did I sit last time? I think I'll get to it in a sec, but yeah, I think I sat in G. You can see there in the middle. But yeah, $149 there. They are ripper seats as well. $179 for the premium 4 tickets there. Then we go to the $199. That's where I sat last time. Great seats and so close. You can almost get sprayed with blood from there if you're lucky. So $199 for that one. Ringside number 2 is $295. You can see there, very, very close to the action. You're right up close, and of course, ringside 1 is the front couple of rows. They go for $495. So I don't think there's any corporate packages with it, but if you can afford $500, great value there. And but yeah, anything right down to any of those $49 tickets, fantastic. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy that. I'll go back to me, which is here, and I'm going to put the link in there. There it goes. All right, so it's in there now. So if you want to click on that, it takes you to the ticket section. And yeah, so that should be an awesome night. As I said, just getting back to that with the No Limit guys, I really love the fact that they're not just putting on boxing shows that are just the norm and, you know, just going through the motions and doing what everyone else is doing. I really love this. You know, I have said I'm not a massive fan of the gallon thing, and I stand by that, but it gives people opportunities on the undercard. I understand that. But this one be great. 20 legitimate fights. And you can see there, having Nikita on there, Kuso on there, Goodman on there, and the world title fight with Hogan as well. You cannot ask for a better card for the money. So ripper night of, or day of boxing there. So get on to that. I just want to get on to Cambosis and Haney2. I don't think we had the chance. I think it was actually announced until the Tuesday last week, I think. So I didn't talk about it last week. But what do you guys think of this? Hang on. What do we got there? Julian Holland. Did I forget Julian? Did I? You better... Oh, hang on. Yep. Organise Damien Membry. Yep. Put that in there. Oh, hang on. Before I move on. Super Saturday is great. Out there more. Yeah. Well, let's hopefully they think of something else. It might be a 2-day extravaganza. It might be a whole day of 4 and 6 round fights. There might be 30 fights this time. There might be 25 odd 4-rounders and a couple of 6-rounders to finish it off as the main events. More of a feeder card, or maybe it's one day all the 4-rounders and 6-rounders, and then the next day is the 8-rounders and 10-rounders. There's so many things they can do, but they've got the ability to do it. I don't mind the idea of a weekend, maybe of fights. Maybe it's on the Gold Coast or somewhere where people use it as a holiday like they do in Vegas. They have multiple fight shows over a weekend. Maybe that's the next thing as well. I know they did try it. Was it last year? And they had, I think they might have 2 fights in a week. I think Andy Maloney was on there, so I'm not quite sure. But so anyway, yeah, I'm with you, mate. Super Saturday's great, and that is definitely worth your $60 on pay-per-view in my opinion. All right, so let's get on to this one. So what do you guys think? Now, one thing I did take out of this fight, and again, I talked about this on the Boxing Deep Dive show last Friday morning when it came out. Now, one thing I was really not surprised about, but taken back a little bit and pleasantly surprised is George Cambosis, the way he rolled up. Now, if you don't remember, he came to the press conference in the first fight. He had all the he had the threads on and the jewelry and the belts, and he had all the spotlight and the grand music, and it was all happening obviously in the Grand Arena, the Marvel Stadium. And there's a lot of banter between both of them, and I think Devin Haney was taken back a little bit by how George sort of ripped into him a little bit, and so it got a little bit spiteful. But this time, if you noticed, George went down. He didn't have the entourage with him this time. He was dressed very downplayed, I suppose is the best way you could call it. There's obviously no belts, nothing like that. And he sat down, and he was very, very low key. It was pretty much, yep, I'm here, I'm going to do the job, I'm very grateful, thank you to everyone, and I'm just going to let my fist do the talking. There was no, I think you can remember the last one, I don't know whether he called Haney a cheat or a traitor or whatever it was, because he'd been giving George, or messaging George in the lead up to the Lopez fight. Haney very correctly pointed out that George was sparring with Manny Pacquiao in the lead up to the Jeff Horn fight, so... but it got a little bit ugly, and I just think George might have been trying to build it up a little bit too much, make it a little bit more too dramatic. I just don't think he needed to do it. And I think if anyone, an unsettled anyone, was actually George himself, because he spent so much time, going with these narratives and trying to work himself up. I just think he lost his way a little bit, and I've just got a feeling with this one, and Nick Noonan said on the show last week, that he backed it up, that he thinks that this time George is going to be all business. He's going to be very selective in who he does interviews with, what functions he goes to. I'm sure there'll be no dramas with the autographs and the photos. That'll continue. I don't think there's an issue with that. But just be a bit more careful with your time, and don't say yes to anything unless it suits you. So if it doesn't suit around your training schedule, then don't do it. That would be my advice to George. You've got your training schedules locked in. If it doesn't work in, then sorry, I can't help you. Yes. He called him a rat. Thanks, James. He did too. I couldn't think of the word, but you've hit it on the head. Now, I thought that was extremely unfair. Also, I nearly fell off my chair when he called him a rat, and you could tell that he'd gone to the press conference and he was going to roll with that narrative no matter what. He was going to find a way to get it in. He'd locked it in his mind that that's what he was going to run with on that particular day. And he put it out there, and he worked it in, and then he wouldn't leave it alone. I think he called him a rat about 10 or 12 times. He just would not let it go. And I think everyone was a little bit surprised and taken aback by it. So, including me. So, as I said, I just hope what I'm really curious about, I want the George that fought Lopez to turn up. Now, if that's not good enough, then it's not good enough. I don't care. I don't think, not to say that he would have beat Haney. I think Haney won, I won't say easily enough, but it was conclusive enough to have no arguments that Haney deserved his win and all that sort of stuff. What I want to see, though, is the George Cambosis without all the distractions, without trying to beat it up, without trying to cause dramas, without getting in his opponent's face, without all the to and fro, all that sort of stuff. I want to see a focused George turn up with a different game plan and a different frame of mind, and I want to see what he's got. And I want to see him take it on. And if that's not good enough, whatever. But I think he'll be able to live with it. I think he knows within himself. I'm sure he's had people talk to him about it. Probably those that are closest to him that would have said, George, I think we might have overdone it last time in the theatrics department. Let's just get back to what we are. It's a tight-knit team. And let's just get back to what we know. And I know he's been comparison, almost like the Rocky 3 with Rocky against Clubber. Had to get back to what got him there, all that sort of stuff. I think it's a little. It does, it does have a few similarities to it. But anyway, we'll see what he has to say or what he does on the night. George was much more humble this time out, and that's the type of fighter I appreciate. Yeah, I agree, mate. Now I don't know about you, and I haven't been silent about saying this in the past, and it actually got a little bit of throwback from a few people, and I don't care because I tell it the way it is. But I like a fighter that does the talking with their hands, not their mouth. And I had so much respect for George, and have so much respect for George, that fight with Lopez, because of how he brought it. He talked it up, but he got in there and he had the eye of the tiger. He got in there and he just laid it out and just had a crack and got the win. And alongside of probably another 6 other fights, or probably more in Australia's history, just that goes down in history as legendary and gutsy performances, with so much heart that he showed. And I must admit, all the yapping and all the theatrics that went on in the lead up to the Haney fight, I ended up having to turn, just switch off from it all, because it just, it's not what I want to see. And I think I can't talk for all the fight fans out there. And I know all the, the casuals out there, they all ate it up, and the media ate it up, and all the social media commentators ate it up. Excuse me. But I think the real boxing fans out there said, enough of this shit. Let's just get on with the fight. Come on, let's just get on with it. I want to see the fight. And I don't think we got the best George. So I'm with you, mate. Much more humble, and that's what we want to see. We really want to see that. James, theatrics was good against Teo, not Haney, though. Yeah, I agree, mate, 100%. I actually love the theatrics as Teo. I think I love seeing the look on Teo's face when George, as this unknown challenger, has pretty much came from nowhere. He didn't have pretty much any right to be there. I know some people might disagree with beating Mickey Bay and who was it he beat in England? Whatever. But he had the wins, and but he didn't have the notoriety. No one really knew who he was. Lopez was pretty much forced to fight. I think he said, "We'll have a voluntary sort of easier defence." While we're waiting for the bigger fights, maybe a Lomachenko rematch or whatever it was going to be. But George was in his face, and I still remember one of the first press conferences, and they did the face off, and George got right up in his face and would not take a backward step. And Teofimo actually had to take a step back. And I remember looking at his face thinking, he knows he's in a fight. He doesn't know what to make of George. And George didn't let up. But you know what? He just had that, I say again, the eye of the tiger. When he got in there, and he was just there to fight. And of course, that right hand in the first round put an exclamation mark on that. But he really took the soul and the heart from Lopez and just broke him down. And that was why it was so good. And I think it was more of a more manufactured type of thing with Haney. And granted, he didn't have a Lopez and his dad in the opposite corner to play off against. I know Haney's dad had a little bit to say, and Haney himself had a little bit to say, but it was nothing on the Lopez fight. And you need a dance partner when all that's going on. And I think George tried to be the one that manufactured the rivalry or the hatred or spite, whatever you want to call it, and it just fell flat because Haney just wasn't having a bar of it. I know he had a little bit to say, but Haney, that's not his style. That's not his style to be like that. And I think George, he didn't have that dance partner, and that's why it all fell flat. So I think this time we might see a lot more low-key build up to it, but a harder fight. I've got no doubt there'll be less theatrics outside, but a hell of a lot more inside. So let's hope I'm right. Zygmunt Krasiski 88. Really appreciate you coming out. Thanks for the comment. Hope to see George adopt a pressure style fighting, a game plan rather than sit back and counter like he does a lot of the time. Well, mate, if he does that this time, he'll get beaten even easier because Haney's going to improve. Naturally, when you're in the ring with someone for the first time, the natural thing is to be a little bit tentative and just feel them out. Now Haney's been in there with George. I don't think he's going to have that. I think he's going to come out and he's going to probably try and press the fight a little bit more. Whether that works in George's hands, I'm not sure. Haney's not going to respect George at all. So you're going to see better Haney. So with George, I'm with you. If you're going to go down swinging, go down giving it your all. Don't be silly about it. But I would just like him to take away the range rather than putting the pressure on and waiting to almost counter Haney. Cut the space down, take Haney out of his comfort zone, take him out of that zone where he's dictating the fight. Because good fighters like Haney, Mayweather did it, but he was the master at it. He fought the fight at his own pace. He dictated the pace of the fight, which is why he made so many fights look easy. And that's what Haney did to George the first time around. George has to get out of there. He almost has to watch what a Medina did to Mayweather or a Castillo did to Mayweather. They got him out of his his comfort zone and got in there, closed the gap down and the range, and was able to get inside and throw some bombs. I don't think George is definitely not a Castillo or a Medina with that brutality, but unless he adapts that type of style, unfortunately he's going to get beat again, probably even easier. So I'm hoping he gets a bit of mongrel, bit of grunt, and maybe wears a jab or two to get inside so he can throw his power punches. It's the only way he's going to win. I don't think he can outbox Haney, and that's what I'm looking forward to. But I've just got a feeling that, as I said before, if George turns up in the mindset of the Lopez fight, you're going to see a lot closer fight. You can be assured of that. Andy, mate, that's why I loved Kostya. George is a counter-puncher, but I hope he leads and is more unpredictable this time around. Yeah, easier said than done, though, mate, I will say. It's very hard to change the way, what's made you successful in such a short amount of time. And if he keeps with the same trainers, I'm not sure he can get the job done. I've said numerous times, bring someone else in. If they've got to get someone else in from overseas as a consultant or someone with they can fly in for a month or whatever it might be to implement a game plan. All due respect to the trainers he's got, I will say, but obviously something didn't work last time. So why not bring in a world-renowned trainer for a 4-week block to help you devise a game plan? This is not the time to have ego or to think you know it all. The good fighters do it. They bring consultants in to work on things, and that's what great fighters do. The great fighters don't know it all. They don't pretend to know it all. Great fighters, of course, but they have people behind the scenes who can add the layers to make them even greater. So, George, if you're watching, bring in someone from overseas. There's plenty of them out there to spend a month or 5 weeks or 6 weeks, whatever it might be, with you to work with your current trainers. And just bring something else to the table. You see it all the time, and I'm gonna mention like an AFL, and I'm sure it's the same in rugby league and all the sports. You have your coaching panel. Everyone has their input. Everyone has a different strength and that they bring to the table, and the head coach sees it all, puts it all together, and devises the game plan and the strategy and all that sort of stuff. So why not bring someone in to make you even better? That's just my opinion. But anyway, what have we got there? Hi, Tara. Thanks for the name list. It was just a suggestion for next time. Yeah, that was about the Hall of Fame. So there was Bomber Peden, Julian Holland was the drunk one. At the end, he was great. And you should obviously known Hussey on there. Skinny was his brother, who looks like his brother, obviously. Just trying to think of the others. But anyway, great suggestion. I'll definitely remember that for next time. Andy, great take there, Lyndon. Thanks, mate. I do my best. Again, it's just my opinion. That's why it's great to have you guys along to talk about all things boxing. James again. George can rock Haney once or twice. Haney on wobbly legs. Well, yeah, exactly. He just didn't really know how to... It just didn't... Look, it's a really frustrating one because it just... Like most of you guys out there, and I'm assuming the people in attendance, is almost, the meme they have with the guy, he's got the stick, he's saying do something. That's what it was almost like. But I've been in there myself with fighters, and whether it be in sparring or in real fights, where it's like, I just cannot get to this guy. What can I do? I just can't, and you spar him again and again and again, then obviously you pick up more tricks and trades, and you get a little bit more used to his tempo and what he does, and make sure a little bit better in with him next time. This is a bit different because it's the second fight. But as I said, I just think someone to bring in, just if he does land the punch, what's he going to do to stay inside? What's he going to do to cut off the ring? What's it going to take if plan A doesn't work to bring in plan B? There's just so many intangibles in there. Okay, so Tara's just saying she put the list in the comments. Sorry, I might have missed a couple of comments. Sigmont commented earlier that the one you just read out. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. Go back through the comments there and you'll see who's on there. But great thing about the Hall of Fame with the comments on there, or the names on there. So I'm with you, James. I think he can and did. He did land a couple of punches last time, but just had no follow up. And I just think he needs to. He needs to pretty much reinvent himself, I think. I don't expect him to be a Ricky Hatton as such and just lead with his face and come in and do what he's going to do, because he'll get picked off again, but he has to be strategic about it. Now, one suggestion I would have is to maintain the counter-puncher type of style, but instead of being at arm's length away and waiting for him to punch and then counter, I would close the gap in half. So instead of being at arm's length away, I would get to within half the length away and make him punch and then counter, because then you're on top of him. When he's at arm's length and he punches and you try and counter, he just takes a step back. He's out of there. So that's why he got countered the hell out of last time, because his arm's length, he would wait for Haney to jab, then he would try and counter. By that stage, Haney's gone. He's taken a step back, or he's pivoted off or kicked off to the side. So he's not there. So my suggestion to him would be, I'm just from the outside, close the gap to half an arm's length away, still let him punch first, and then counter on it, and then you've got him. Then at least you've got him in range and whatever. Yes, he might try and tie you up, whatever he might want to do, but he's not going to want to try and fight with him. So at least it gets you inside. You can rough him up. You can put the head on the chest or in his face. Even throw a few fouls if you have to, just to get him out of that comfort zone. Those types of fights, it's worth having a warning or two to let him know you're there to fight. You're not going to get a point taken away until the third warning, so why not get the elbow in the face, get his head in his face, get the glove, whatever. I'm not saying to fight dirty, although I probably am, but he needs to do that sort of stuff. You look at Madonna against Mayweather, especially in the first fight. And Broner especially. He roughed him up. His punches coming down and up and across, and he just did everything he could to rough them up. Because those type of fighters, if you just let them do their own thing, they'll just box you the same round every round. I said that in my review of the first Haney Cambosis fight. It was round after round after round after round of him doing exactly the same thing. So that would be my suggestion. Cut it down to half an arm's length to at least get you close enough to have a chance. Anyway, what are your opinions? I'll be happy to hear it. And again, Dev was quick to grab and hold when it got too dangerous too. George said he retires if he loses. I don't think he was saying he retires if he loses, mate. I think what he was saying is that he would have to reassess, because, look, he's only 29 years old, or 28, or I think he is. Correct me if I'm wrong, 28, 29 years of age. He's got years in front of him. What I think he was trying to say is if he loses and there's nothing else out there for him, he can't come back to Australia and fight. I mean, you can imagine these guys, He's fought, in Madison Square Garden. He's fought at Marvel Stadium in front of 40,000 people. He's about to fight in 15,000. It could probably sell more than that at Rod Laver Arena. It will be pandemonium there. The atmosphere will be electric. It's then hard for him to go back to fighting in front of 1,000 or 2,000 people at a local basketball stadium or a music hall or whatever it might be. Very, very hard. So what I think he was saying is he would consider his options if he loses. But I think there'll be plenty of opportunities still out there for him. And again, I've said this in the past. Even if he loses this fight, he's still a former world champion who beat Teofimo Lopez, who had beaten Lomachenko. There's going to be guys like Ryan Garcia, even Tank Davis, maybe Shakur Stevenson coming up. Big dollars on the line to fight a name fighter who gives them a very, very good name on their record. So I would think and expect that even if he loses this fight, you're going to have one of those guys. They're going to say, I'm going to fight that guy. One of the networks are going to want a name. They don't probably, or they mightn't see him as a massive threat. So I wouldn't be surprised at all. As I said, if it is a Shakur Stevenson or a Tank Davis or a Ryan Garcia that says, this is the guy we can beat, because it's such a good name on his record. There might be young up-and-comers coming up who want to scalp, who have got a PBC or a top rank or golden boy behind them. They might pay him $500,000 to $1 million to fight that up-and-comer. So plenty of opportunities for him yet. What I don't want to see, of course, is if his heart's not in it anymore, and he fights those guys and gets stopped or bashed around, whatever. That's what I don't want. I would rather him say, I'm out. Look, he's probably, by the time he retires, he's probably made $15 or $20 million. So why would you want to, fight for peanuts? Because, even if he comes back and fights in Australia, if he loses to Haney, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but as the Aussie fans are going to drop him like a hot potato. It's as simple as that. But maybe not the hardcore fans. The casual fans, whatever, would been there and done that. So it's going to be really hard for a promoter. Maybe a No Limit or someone could get behind him. But it's going to be tough for him to get that payday that he deserves. Not that he wants, but the paydays he deserves. He deserves $500,000 a fight at least if he loses his fight, no matter what. And I just don't think he's going to get that in Australia. So it might be that he's going to be the B-side against those guys, that the Eddie Hearns and the Golden Boys and Top Ranks are going to use him to fight their other good fighters or their up-and-comers. But while the fire's still there, as I said, if he loses this fight and he gets an opportunity against, say, Ryan Garcia, I'll go back. Maybe Shakur Stevenson, they're looking to bring him up from lightweight. They want a name. They want someone that they think they can beat who's a name. He's the ideal one. So why shouldn't he get paid $500,000 to $1 million to fight Shakur Stevenson on a top-ranked card? That just makes sense. And he's got the opportunity then to make a statement, to keep the fires burning, to make a statement and have another crack at it. But even if he decides that, look, the fire's not there anymore, the heart's not in it anymore, I've got a young family, I want to get back to Australia, probably going to have, as I said, $15 to $20 million to comfort him. So I think he's too smart to do that. He's a smart guy, I think, George, and he's got a good team around him. So I think that would be the case. Dev, this is the other part of your question there. Dev was quick to grab and hold when it got too dangerous. Yeah, and that's what the good fighters do. Mayweather did it as well. Broner and all those types of fighters did it. The trick is, though, you would have seen again with Medina, don't let yourself get tied up. Let him take one hand. You can still bang him with the other. The referee's not going to pull you apart if you've got one hand free. If anything, you're going to warn him for holding. If you allow yourself to get clinched, and a lot of fighters do because they want the rest or whatever it might be, it's just repetition, one round after another. You're going to allow yourself to get tied up and held and clinched, and that's what happens. So George has to get in there. Don't let himself get tied up. Let him get one arm and keep one arm free, and you keep banging him. And as I said before, just get that head in his chest or in his face and rough him up. Get dirty. He has to. Unfortunately, that's what you're going to have to do to get the result this time around. James again, mate. Love these questions. By the way, from a self-confessed casual, mate. You're not casual. You're on here. You're hardcore, mate. You're good. Can George have more lateral movement to avoid more jabs, like a rugby league side set? Well, why not, mate? That's not a bad idea. Sometimes you need to think a little bit left field. You got my opinion before. I would actually, as well as trying to cut the range from one arm length to half an arm's length, I would be getting in low. I'd be coming in low. Don't come in at full height. I'd get low and come in as he comes up, and that would again negate the jab and give him a bit more leeway. So lots of things he can do. Lots of little tweaks. Nothing. Super, it's not rocket science, just little tweaks. But that's not a bad one. Yeah, come in from an angle. Don't come in straight on. It's a great point. I like it. I'm not sure about the rugby league thing, mate. I'm an AFL guy, of course, but I'm assuming you're talking about coming in from the angle instead of straight on. So, mate, why not? Try it. Maybe that's plan A. If it doesn't work, well, plan B is what I said. Plan C might be just to go and just throw haymakers. Just throw big overhand rights, one after the other. I don't know. But to have those multiple game plans, they need it this time, because last time they had one game plan, if that, and it didn't work. So, and I know the other thing too, Mick Ackleway wasn't part of the camp as well. I'm not sure whether things can be patched up there. It'd be great to have him involved. If it can't, bring in someone from overseas. That's just my opinion. But, mate, you're not a casual. You're on here. You're educating yourself, and that's why we love to have you on board. Andy, casual, likely, but George will always have my respect. Mate, well said. And you're not a casual, mate. You're on here, so it's all good. So that's my opinion of Haney Cambosis. As I said at the start, I love that George come in totally low-key, downplayed everything, dressed low-key, spoke low-key. He's going to let his fist do the talking. I think they've done a great thing by putting this fight at Rod Laver Arena. 15,000, I think, is the maximum they're going to get. Maybe a few more they could have maybe got, but 15,000 will make it like a Coliseum in there. It is an awesome venue for boxing if you haven't been there before. It's where they have the tennis, the Australian Open, and the atmosphere will just be electric. I'm not sure you can open the roof there. I'm not sure they will. When is it? October. One thing I will say, never, ever, ever trust Melbourne weather. It could be the middle of summer, and the odds are it'll piss rain if you have the roof open. I went to Jeff Fennick and Zuma Nelson back in 1992. Was it in February? It's normally 40 degrees those days. We did it on an outside football field, and it pissed rain all day. It was cold, wet, and miserable. So don't risk it if you're the organisers of it. Shut the roof, and it'll make it an even better atmosphere on the day. Zygmunt, again, is there any word on who is on the undercard on Haney versus Cambosis rematch? Yes, there is. The two Maloneys will be on the card. Let's just have a look. The Maloney brothers. I'm going to just share my screen again here, guys. We'll see if we can find it. What date is it? October 16th. So, it looks like it's the only fight on the card at the moment. But yeah, the Maloney boys will be on there. I have heard that maybe Susie Ramadan was going to be on there against Jamie Mitchell for the WBA bantamweight title. However, I have had word that might be scrapped. I heard that may have fallen over, which is an absolute tragedy if it is the case, because Susie deserves another world title fight. I actually saw her at the Hall of Fame the other night. Sorry. Shout out to Susie as well. She came over and said g'day. One of Australia's best female fighters, definitely in the top 2 or 3 for mine. Probably an argument to be the best. Obviously, Shannon O'Connell and a few at that. Sharon Anyos probably would have an argument there. But yeah, that's all I've got at the moment, mate. There will maybe be a sprinkling of the same who were on the last card. Maybe some top ranked fighters, some Duco fighters. Might be a bit of a mix. I know Tazzy Brown, who does the deep dive show, has been asked a little bit of matchmaking. He hasn't said a lot at the moment, but I will ask him. But at the moment, the Maloneys and possibly Susie Ramadan against Jamie Mitchell for the WBA female bantamweight title. Wouldn't that be massive as well if she did get that fight and she won it? Does she fight the winner of Bridges and O'Connell? How good would that be? That would be massive. So I'll keep in the loop though, Zygmunt. But there'll be. I know all the people in the know, but they've all said we can't say too much at the moment, all right? And I don't want to. I have heard rumours and whispers, but I don't want to betray their trust because they won't tell me anything anymore, and I won't get anything. So, but I do definitely know that the Maloney boys will be on the card. So, now the other thing is, I think we touched again on it last week. Jarvis and Paro is the night before this, so it's going to be a massive week of boxing. Are you going to pay $60 for both? I don't know. And if you are, well, if you only can afford one, which one are you paying for? I'd probably be this one. I must admit, though, one I'm looking forward to the most, though, is Paro Jarvis. I think it'll be a ripper. Now, the week before this is also Eubank Jr. and Ben, and also, obviously, the one we just went through, the Super Saturday, is October the 8th as well. So, massive week of boxing. So, can't wait for that one. All right, so on to some more news. We've gone well over time. It's just gone really quick. Some Aussie news quickly. I'll get back to that. Justice Honey might be fighting Marius Breedis on October 29. What do you think about that? Had a good talk to Jai the other night. I kept it pretty short because of his jaw. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Justice Honey, Marius Breedis, October 29. Didn't think it would happen. Is it too early for Justice? Is Breedis too big and strong at this time of his career? I suppose time will tell. Just a question there on the Maloney's. Maloney couldn't snag Butler. Yes, it's on my news as well there, mate. Is it a newie for Butler for Undisputed? Yes, it is. They are fighting. I haven't got it actually in front of me there. I'll just get rid of that. I did have it on my list to discuss on Thursday. Now, they are fighting on December the 13th for the Undisputed title. So all 4 belts, which is great. But yeah, Jason won't get his shot at Butler, especially obviously on the next card. I've got a feeling, though, from what I've heard, is a Nui, if he beats Butler, which I think is definitely on the cards, he will vacate and move up and try for world titles in another division, which would leave all belts vacant. And then Jason, if you would have seen, #1 Ring Magazine at the moment. So I think he'll get a shot at one of those belts. If Butler wins, which again is extremely unlikely, well, I think Jason will be the first one he'll fight. So I think either way, I think Jason will fight. I won't say tune-up because at his level, there's no such thing really as tune-ups. They're all tough fights. But I think they'll give him someone that's tough, but maybe not a big puncher. Maybe someone that doesn't lead with the head. We don't want any accidents and cut eyes and all that sort of stuff. So I think they'll get someone that's okay, but not a massive puncher for Jason and Andy as well, because he could get a call up any time as well. So, it's a bit of a shame he's not going to get Butler up next. But the good news is after this one, the odds are he will get a crack at either Butler or a vacated title from Inui. On the world scene, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, possible for February 11th or 18th is the word. Fury didn't give up his WBC belt as he said he would. He got to the deadline, which was August the 26th, and informed the WBC he was going to keep his belt. So it's going to happen. Fury Usyk is going to happen, no doubt whatsoever. I know he's talking for $500 million. He's not going to get $500 million. Had it been Joshua, who knows? Maybe they could have generated that amount of money in England. I don't know. I would think he might get maybe 100, 150, maybe. Still a lot of money. But I don't think he's going to get anywhere near 500. I think he's talking up as what Tyson always does. He knows he needs to beat Usyk. He knows. He needs that win. Will it be as massive as Joshua? No, it won't. But if it's it's Saudi Arabia they're talking about, which I don't like, but at the end of the day, if that's what pays it and gives him the amount of money he's got to get, well, so be it. I just don't like it because you get all the suits that are there in the front row. They're going to afford to pay all the money. I want to see it at Wembley Stadium in front of the Brits. That's what I want to see. Yeah, I'd love to see it in Vegas, but I ain't going to go to Vegas. In England would be the go for me. So anyway, so it looks like it's going to happen. Now, what I want to move on to, guys, just quickly, is the pound for pound list. They came out over the weekend. I've put 2 lots up there. I want your opinion on this. We'll firstly go to the Ring Magazine because we've got that and the ESPN, the top 10 as well. The one thing I did notice, or I'll get to in a second actually, but so you got #1 for Ring Magazine, is actually we'll start at number 10. Arda Beterbiev, number 10. Number 9 is Jermell Charlo. Number 8 is Josh Taylor. Number 7 is Dmitry Bivol. Number 6 is Vasily Lomachenko. Number 5 is Canelo Alvarez. Number 4 is Errol Spence. Number 3 is Terence Crawford. Number 2 is Noah Inoue. And number 1 is Alexander Usyk. I don't necessarily disagree with that one. I think it's a good list. Just again, my opinion, I don't agree with Usyk at number 1. I'm sorry. I think Inui, for me, should be number 1. I wouldn't have Crawford or Spence. Definitely Crawford. I don't think he's been active enough. Ability-wise, yeah, probably, but he just fights too rarely for me. So I don't think elevating him to number 1 by default is the way to go. So that's just my opinion. I would probably have Inui as number 1. Lomachenko, I think if he beats the winner of Haney Cambosis, will go back to number 1 or number 2. But yeah, look, you could probably throw a blanket over the top 4 or 5, but for me, I would maybe have Inui over Usyk. I think Usyk has to beat Fury. Now, that was I was just going to say. Tyson Fury, the big one missing here is he's not in the Ring Magazine top 10. Now, I would have assumed they would have known, well, obviously ESPN did because they've got him in there, that surely Tyson Fury is in the top 10 in the world. I would actually have him above Alexander Usyk, in my opinion. I think his wins over Deontay Wilder surpasses, and others, and Klitschko, of course, surpasses Usyk's wins over Joshua and his efforts at cruiserweight. Just my opinion. So to have him not in there, I don't, because you would think the ring would be right across this. I would think they'd be right across what's happening in the what's going to happen with the sanctioning bodies. So I'm really surprised at that because ESPN had him in there and they don't. I'll run through the ESPN one first, and we'll talk about both of them. Number 10, Shakur Stevenson. Number 10 for ESPN. Number 9 is Vasily Lomachenko. Number 8 is Dmitry Bivol. Number 7, Artur Beterbiev. Number 6, Tyson Fury. Number 5, Canelo Alvarez. Number 4, Alexander Usyk. Number 3 is Errol Spence. Number 2, Naoya Inoue. And number 1, Terence Crawford. Now, if you look through those, I'm just looking at the common ones they've got. Number 2, they've both got Inoue at number 2 there. They've both got Canelo at number 5. They're the only two that they've got. Now, ESPN, well, they differ in Shakur Stevenson. He's on the ESPN list, not in the ring list. And obviously Fury, who I've just said there. And that is about it. In place of that, the Ring Magazine have got Josh Taylor and Jamel Charlo. Now, is there a case, I will say, I'm just putting a couple of names out there. We just mentioned Tyson Fury. Devin Haney. Is there a case for Devin Haney to be in in one of the top 10s of both of these guys? We'll just say the Ring Magazine. They seem to be the more recognised. He did say this week that he's going to ditch the Ring Magazine. He's going to vacate the title. He said, I'm the youngest undisputed champion ever. A lot of these other guys in there don't have Ring Magazine belts. I know there's only a few of them out there at the moment, but I have sort of seen the rebuttal to that. Well, just because you're the youngest doesn't mean shit. The youngest undisputed champion still doesn't mean you've got to surpass a lot of these other guys. And just because some of the other guys don't have Ring Magazine belts doesn't mean they don't deserve to be in the top 10. So a few different arguments. What do you think? Should Devin Haney be in there? My number one, other one I wanted in there also. Do you make a case for Triple G, Gennady Golovkin? His only loss has been against Canelo, and it was debatable. Multiple world champion. You could say he hasn't been active enough, but neither is Crawford or Spence, and probably a couple of others in there as well. Does Triple G deserve to be in the top 10? I reckon you could almost make a case for Triple G. Just my opinion. The other one was Juan Francisco Estrada. Having looked at it, maybe not. Maybe these other guys have done a little bit more than him, although he's a very, very well-credentialed and underrated world champion, if you ask me, is Estrada. But Triple G is the one for me. Maybe Shakur Stevenson is the other one. Might be a little bit early for Stevenson. I'd like to see him fight a Lomachenko or one of these guys first. A few of your comments here. What do we got, Andy? In my honest opinion, Loma doesn't belong in there at the moment because he isn't holding a title. Yeah, no, not a bad point, mate. I did see, might have been the Ring Magazine defended that because someone else might have brought that up as well. And they said, well, shit, before he lost to Teofimo Lopez, he was ranked number 1, pound for pound. And yes, he lost that fight, but he's come back and won, is it 2, I think, since then? Well, at least 1, maybe 2. So he deserves to be in there. Oh, look, I'm sure I'm with you, mate. I'm sure he could make an argument with it, but I like your opinion there. Does he belong in there without holding a world title? I think he's the only one in there, isn't he, that doesn't hold a world title? Yeah, he is. Josh Taylor's almost out of it too. He's got 1 world title. He's at the start of the year he had 4. Now he's down to 1. And unfortunately, the one he hasn't vacated is a WBO title, which is where our man Liam Paro is number 1 ranked for it. So that's why he's not getting a shot. The other 3, WBC, WBA, and IBF, have all been vacated by Taylor for one reason or another. But good comment there, mate. Usyk is my number 1. Yep, no arguments. Well, I won't say argument. I did disagree, of course. But, mate, you've got your opinion, and that's fine. And I'm sure you got your reasons for it. I wouldn't even have him as a number 1 heavyweight, is my opinion. I think Tyson Fury is still the number 1 heavyweight, again, in my opinion. But then again, pound for pound probably means his body of work, being at cruiserweight as well. Hasn't lost a fight yet, 20-0 with 13 KOs. Fury, but he's undefeated as well. I don't know. This is what's the thing about all these arguments, I suppose. There's so many different opinions. Zygmunt, Crawford versus Spence will be an epic fight in the future. Yeah, well, I think the winner of that will go to number one. That's probably the one caveat I would have in there. Seeing ESPN number 1 and 3, the Ring Magazine 3 and 4. So I would think the winner of that fight deserves number 1 ranking. So, but then again, if Inoue beats Butler and becomes undisputed, maybe you can make a case for him. I think in these instances here, you've got to say, well, these are just the 10 pound for pound fighters in no particular order. It'll probably make our job a lot easier. Andy Usyk, my number 1, because greatest road warrior, beating champs in their own backyards, undisputed, cruiserweight, and now heavyweight. Yeah, mate. Yeah, good. That's a very, very good point. And I think you've got to take a lot of these into consideration when you debate who is number 1, because if you've got someone that fights at home the whole time, based against someone that hasn't fought there, and like you said, the road warrior gets out beating people on outside of the comfort zone. Yeah, well, and then you've got someone like Canelo's done it outside his own weight divisions. He keeps going up, and so many variables in there. But no argument with that one, mate. That is a very good point. Yes, James. No, Devin Haney. Yes, he's top 10 and very voided at 135. Well, I just said the arguments against him there, mate, and for him. I think he needs a win, again, in my opinion, over one of the other big 4 or 5, whatever it might be. He needs to beat a Lomachenko or even a Garcia, definitely a Tank Davis, maybe a Shakur Stevenson. That is the super fight down the track, if you ask me, is him and Shakur Stevenson. But I think he needs to beat one of those guys. Yeah, he beat George, and you might beat him again. But apart from that, he's beat a few other sort of contenders out there and former champions, but I just think it's really hard to put him above these other guys. But again, it's your opinion, mate. And again, Haney with lightweight undisputed deserves consideration for pound in my opinion. Consideration, but I just don't think. Look, if I was going to put him in there in front of anyone, I must admit I would probably make a case for him above a better Biev. I know it's going to be a little bit controversial, and maybe a Josh Taylor, I think. And maybe Shakur Stevenson in the ESPN one as well. They're the ones I would probably see him above. I don't think you can put him above the other guys. Although, having said that, if you go by the lineal thing, Lopez beat Lomachenko, Cambosis beat Lopez, Haney beat Cambosis. Does that make him above Lomachenko? There's always things that throw in there, I suppose. So, anyway, Maloney. That is back to Maloney. That is from Jay, we'll call him. Maloney said he will step down fighting Butler, so Inoue fights Butler. Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that, mate. Thanks for bringing that up. So what he's saying is that Jason has made an agreement, probably had some step aside money to fight, so that Butler can fight Inoue, and I would say with the provision that he gets the first crack at the winner. Or if Inoue goes up, Inoue moves up, he gets first crack at one of those titles. So I'm assuming the WBO title would be it. So thanks, mate. Really appreciate your comments there. And what's this one? Tim Zhu, number 48, pound for pound. I'm not aware that is that right? He's number 48 somewhere, is he? Pound for pound. That's news to me, mate. I didn't know that one. So he's number 48. Well, I'm just putting there where that is, mate, whether it's with one of these guys or someone else. But that'd surprise me a little bit, he's number 48. Maybe. Who knows? So there it is, guys. There's the number 10 for both of them. Any other comments that you have, let us know, because it's definitely always good to debate these types of things. I'm just going to bring up again. Actually, I won't. I was going to put up the box rate, but I've lost it there. So apologies for that. Guys, anything else, just let me know. If not, that's going to be the show this week. I hope I've answered some questions and covered a few different things that you might want to discuss. If I've missed your comment, I apologise. There's been a few coming through, and there is probably a 20-second or 30-second delay here, so I might have missed it, or once we get off, it might come on after I've gone off. So, again, really appreciate everyone that logs on and views the show, whether it's live or after the fact. It means a lot to me. We're trying to build the channel, build the shows. Any ideas you might want to discuss on here, any topics? We have had a lot of comments about different things. One comment before we go there from Andy. Top Rank might be angling for Dev Loma winner for Shakur. Ideally, hope Shakur achieves undisputed before stepping up to lightweight. Yeah, unlikely, mate, because the money's there, so I doubt he'll do that. He'll want the big dollar straight away. If he loses, it's not the end of the world for him, so who knows? I'll tell you what, Cambosis will throw a real spanner in the works if he gets the win this time. He's going to make a lot of people unhappy, I think, which is what he'd probably love. This is James, my guess is 17 or so divisions. Is that your comment, number 48 for Tim Zhu, you think, mate? Have you done the break? You said you're a casual fan. That's a pretty good effort to go through all divisions and get to number 48, if that's the case. But yeah, 17 or so divisions. I've lost track of all the divisions and all the belts and champions, I must admit, mate. I've got to jump on and go through them every few months for the ratings. We might actually do that next week. We might go through the updated rankings of all four sanctioning bodies and see what the changes have been and any surprises there might be, and obviously where the Aussies rank in the scheme of things as well. So we might do that next week and anything else we can think of. So again, guys, really appreciate you viewing the show. As I said, any suggestions and comments you have, put them in there. We'll take them on board. We want to make the show even better. I am getting to the point where I'm going to risk bringing some of you guys on for a chat. We have got the ability to do it. I'm just not overly confident in my internet speed, whether it's going to allow me to download you and then upload you to YouTube. So we'll see how we go. We'll give it a go and see what happens. But until next week, guys, thanks again, and we'll catch you then.